Change, it's one of the few constants in life. This is especially true in technology in AEC. The options seem never ending and it's hard to know where to begin. Welcome to Bridging the Gap with Applied Software. I'm your host, Todd Wyant. And this is the show where we empower you to transform industries by championing innovation. Please feel free to interact with us by liking or commenting on this video. We'd love to hear from you. Today we are joined by Josh Bone, a construction technologist at Caisson. For more than 2 decades, Josh has been implementing, training, and presenting construction technology solutions to AEC professionals. He specializes in identifying best practices and methodologies for integrating BIM and mobile applications into everyday workflow. He will be one of our keynote speakers this month at our MEP Force event in San Antonio. Josh, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to have you. Can you start by kind of giving a little bit more on your background and who Caisson is?
Yeah, so I've been in the industry for over 20 years, started 3D modeling a long time ago, worked with Angie Izzy, who is now with Autodesk here in Atlanta, working and competing against Richard for a number of years here at Applied. So I've been around this industry in 3D modeling for a long time. Over the last 5 or 6 years, I've really put a lot of my focus on the trades. I see it as a massive opportunity with what we're learning about offsite construction and the productivity challenges that we're facing in the industry. We start to look at some of the numbers and statistics of the numbers we're down in the trades, just the lack of workforce, and then the lack of skilled workforce, the cost of materials, all these things. Safety, everything can be improved by offsite construction. So with DFMA, Design for Manufacturing Assembly, these are the things I'm really excited about, and that's what we're trying to do at Caisson, is drive technology adoption and process improvements through our knowledge that we've gained over the years. Jonathan Marsh and I are going out and trying to make as much of an impact and help the industry in a very agnostic way.
Yeah, gotcha. So what have kind of been the big change points, and how has the AEC industry really evolved in the last couple of years?
You know, a lot's changed. When I started 20 years ago, there was no term about fast track projects. Then this term came about, fast track projects, and now they've gone away because every job's a fast track project. We've really commoditized ourselves in the industry to a point of where it's about being the fastest and the cheapest. And at some point, that starts to break. You can only be so fast using our current workflows. And as we've created some of these digital tools, we've actually created a gap that now we have to kind of overcome some of these things because we're using analog workflows in a digital world, and those don't always fit. So, you know, there's a lot changing right now. I see in the last 4 years, VDC is starting to push prefab. You're starting to hear owners request prefab. You're starting to see the trades try to figure out how can we get to the table earlier so that we can do prefab. The GC see the benefit in it. So, yeah, we're right now at the cusp of a lot of change, and it's only going to continue to accelerate in this industry.
Yeah. Any specific kind of trend lines you see zeroing in on the trades?
Yeah. Right now, we're in our infancy with adoption of prefab. What I'm expecting to see a lot more in the next 2 years is doing more modular type construction. So taking that next step beyond just kind of kitting and doing some basic assembly of prefab to doing more modular skids. Starting, I hope what we start to see is the trades coming together, and the electricians, you got the sheet metal and the pipe fitters, find a way for everyone to work together and do modular skids so that we can have bigger components and really drive that, because it's going to help the schedule. It's going to help so many other things that we're struggling with today.
But that's a kind of a big mind shift in a lot of folks.
It is. I mean, you can't do this without getting people to the table earlier. If you don't have that knowledge, engineers are very intelligent people. Architects are extremely intelligent. But what they don't understand is what it takes to actually put that into place. Those means and methods have a lot of cost that can be associated to them. And we need to see more contracts that have IPD type contracts that get the priority trades. We want to deal with the priority trades and make sure they're getting to the table earlier to help provide the architects, engineers, and design teams with the information they need to do it right the first time. If this method of design bid build is contentious, it causes finger pointing, it's so commodity driven that everybody's operating on razor thin margins. I want to find ways that we can find the benefit to the architects and engineers. How do we help them? For example, shop drawings have really become that last stage of design. Architects and engineers don't have enough time to do what they need to do, so they're not putting out the level of quality of documents that they need to, due to that schedule getting compressed on them. They're in the same situation. So how do we help produce shop drawings that can now roll out to the field, that now embrace that VDC workflow and all that coordination effort? There's so much redundancy in our industry today. So how can we push that?
Yeah, nice. So it seems like technology, it's always changing and evolving, and comes out with new things at such a rapid pace. It's really hard to keep up with the latest and greatest in technology. What would be some of your suggestions on how people can go about learning and then navigating this maze of changing technology?
So right now there's so much out there. There's been so many investments made in construction technology that a lot of people are getting that paralysis by analysis. They're kind of at a point now they really don't know which direction to go in, because what do they want to do? There's 4 competing products that do this exact same thing, and how do I know which one's right for me?
Right.
The good thing about this is I think there's a massive opportunity. The trades have a lot of momentum right now, a lot of goodwill. There's a lot of people out there in the world today that have a massive amount of college debt. And the beautiful thing is you can go straight into the trades, make really good money, and start earning a good paycheck right away. And there's a path now through technology. I think we can start to recruit a lot of the best and brightest. So I say start simple, start easy, look for low-hanging fruit and simple workflows. Looking at where your pain is and where your risk is, you've got to analyze these tools, and you have to have a return on investment. These are not toys; these are digital tools. So you want to make sure that you're really going in, and when you look at BIM, and as you look at it and evaluate it on a job, I'm not just going to go in and necessarily do BIM all the way on every job. I don't have the budget. I don't have the schedule for it. So maybe I'm just going to go in and prefab some underground as an electrical contractor. I really want to focus on my underground area there. But maybe for the mechanical side of this, maybe we want to do underground and really focus on this area on level 1 and this corridor. If we can get there, let's just get that knocked out. You really want to go in and diagnose the problem and use BIM as a tool and prescribe BIM on the job. So that's you got to pick the right tools. You can mobile apps. I mean, there's a ton of things out there that's simple and easy place to start. PlanGrid and Bluebeam are never a bad place to start. Yeah,
cool. So I'm wondering, do you see any potential kind of threats that technology poses for the trades?
Yeah, definitely. I think about this a lot. It keeps me up at night, and because I come from a family that's from the trades. My dad's 3rd generation. A lot of my uncles and family have all worked in the trades. So I understand the concerns of diverting labor hours away from a job. But what we've seen with these McKinsey reports saying that we're leaving all this money on the table, we've got to change the mindset with that ability to go out there and be a welder, be an electrician, and a job site problem solver is a skill that they've built for a long time. Now, we don't have as many of them today as we did when I came into the industry 20 years ago. We've got to find a way to take that knowledge, utilize them, and bring them into the VDC department. We've got to find ways to help them drive more off-site construction. It is going to change, and it is going to divert some labor hours away from projects. But I think we're going to pick up so many more projects, and it's going to increase safety, it's going to increase quality, it's going to change. It's going to be more like a manufacturing type mentality. But it's going to have, if you don't do it, that's the problem today. It's one of those things that you really have to do it. If you don't, you're not going to be competitive. So it's going to be a balancing act over the next few years as we try to figure out how we're going to navigate these waters, because there's going to have to be some collective bargaining agreements, there's going to be negotiations, and where can you pick up opportunity? I was just with the electricians last week at Electrical Training Alliance at NTI in Ann Arbor, and I asked them a question. I showed them a video of Sam the bricklaying robot, semi-automated mason. I showed them a video of 3D printing. I said, who here sees this as an opportunity or a threat? Everybody, that's a threat. Oh my gosh, that is a threat. That's a robot doing a job. I said, that's what we have to challenge ourselves to see. Where's the opportunity for you to own that process and leverage those tools to make you better at what you do? And it's scary. I completely understand that. I try to make sure that I'm thinking about this the right way, but if you're not doing it, you're going to be behind the curve at some point in time. So
so are there some simple steps that people can kind of put into place to put them on a roadmap?
Yeah, I take the knowledge that you have on your team. That skilled labor has so much value. How can you get them to engage with the design teams, share that knowledge and information, let them continue to be problem solvers, but let's shift that problem solving to the front end of the project where they can make more impact without impacting the cost. There's a lot of studies out there, the curves of showing the impact of design changes. It's the McClamey curve. It shows the cost of once you make a change at a certain point, that cost goes up exponentially. So you've got to make decisions earlier in the process. So we need to get them involved earlier. We need them to be taking that knowledge and sharing with us, how do we want to assemble this? How do we want to kit it? How do we want to prefab? What do we want to modularize as we start to think about the process involved around design for manufacturing and assembly? You want to engage them because these tools that we have, I can take someone that has very little experience coming right out of a construction management school or architecture school. If I know how something goes together and I can have some modeling skills to say, hey, this is what a rolled offset looks like in your conduit. This is why we don't do these here. They cost more and it's more work for us. Whereas this is what we would do in this situation. I think we can take that knowledge and really disseminate that, and we can learn a lot faster with the 3D tools that we have today.
Yeah, that's really interesting perspective for sure. So can you unpack kind of what is offsite construction? I'm sure people have heard the term, but just what is it?
So offsite construction is the big, it's everything. It's the whole kit and the caboodle. So it's when I say that means we can do simple kitting, which means we can go out and we can cut components to the right lengths. We can put all the ancillary parts and pieces together, shrink wrap them, put a sticker on it, put it in a box, and send it out for that room, that very specific room. That's one option for offsite construction. The other option is to prefab, to actually start assembling and putting some of these things together, putting them in a cart and labeling them and tagging them in a way that makes it easy to roll them out in the field and efficiently use them, whether it's hangers or spools of conduit or pipe and other assemblies that are coming together that we've prefabricated together to save time in the field. Then we start getting into modular, and that's where we can have multiple components coming together. You hear a lot about skids, so you've got modular skids. That's going to have more parts and pieces that we can put on a truck, pick it, and then put it right into the job site where it goes and mount these things in a very efficient way, saving a lot of time. And then you get into volumetric, and volumetric is the one where we're starting to bring a lot of trades together, a lot of components together. This is where you see a lot of what Marriott's doing right now in the big project up in New York, putting the whole system and bringing in a whole room with everything put together. So those are
the Lego blocks.
That's right. That's exactly the way to think of it, like Lego blocks of all the components and pieces that come together. So those are some of the steps. And when we say offsite construction, those are the elements we're talking about.
Yeah. Do you see one kind of growing more in popularity than the other?
I think it's at what stage you're at in your company. I think a very small contractor can go out. If I'm doing concrete, if I'm doing whatever I'm doing, electrical or any of the trades, I can start with kitting, and that's some simple things that we can do. We can systematize and make it more like manufacturing and just think of it that way. It's really where you're at in the journey. I encourage everyone. My brother's a small electrician. I'm telling him, whatever you can just fab up in the garage, there's a lot of opportunity there for you. If you know you're putting a lot of these things together, you can probably do that with tables set up in your garage before you leave in the morning. Probably be more efficient than out there on the job site trying to get the tools and maybe pulling extension cables and doing other things where you don't have everything right where you need it. So it can be very simple, but it can also be very big and very complex and require engineering. You see some of these skids going onto these trucks, and there's structural engineering that's involved in how to support these systems and how you're going to pick them and put them into the building. So it's different depending on what you're trying to do and looking at, you just want to stay ahead of your competition. If my competition is my brother, I only need to do that much to stay ahead of him. But if it's one of these big contractors here in Atlanta or some of these major markets that are doing amazing things, you hear them not only getting more into offsite, you hear them having conversations, how do we become a manufacturer and even sell this? You want to go and install it? That's great. We'll manufacture this, and you can buy from us and jobs that we're not even working on. So that's where it's heading, to more of a manufacturing type process, and owners that's going to be the new expectation for owners.
Yeah, interesting. So one of the questions I love to ask all the guests is kind of look into your crystal ball. Where do you see the industry in the next 3 to 5 years?
3 to 5 years. All right. So my hope is, and what I'm pretty certain we're going to be able to do is hopefully refine these processes. I mean, technology can only do so much. Right now, submittals are a broken process. RFIs have grown into this massive thing. I remember a day when it took us a sheet to do an RFI. Now it's not uncommon to have an RFI that contains up to 9 sheets, and the cost that's associated with all that communication that has to go back through. I really hope that we can start to look at some of these analog workflows and start refining them for a digital world. That's something I'm hoping that we can do. I'm part of it's just an open group out there. We call ourselves Construction Dorks, and if you hashtag Construction Dorks, you'll see some things about it.
Nice.
I'm talking to Travis Voss, and that's one of the things we're trying to figure out is process so that we can improve the digital workflows. And
Gotcha.
Software is not going to fix a broken process.
Right.
So I hope we can refine those, and then we're going to see a lot more adoption of VDC at a very high level to drive prefab. So in 2019, we need to be doing just more than coordination with BIM. We need to be driving prefab type outputs, different types of offsite construction outputs.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, thank you so much for all the information. Really appreciate it. You taking the time and the conversation.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, of course. And thank you guys for watching today. If you want to hear more from Josh, like I mentioned at the beginning, you can see him as one of our keynote speakers at MEP Force in San Antonio this August. You can find more information in the registration link below to that. And if you want to know just more about any of our products or services at Applied Software, you can go to asti.com. Until next time, thank you for joining us on Bridging the Gap with Applied Software. Keep innovating.